Then I would play Yvonne's story. We'll play it.
In this documentary, we're sharing with you lots of information regarding love, relationships, and marriage. I want to talk to you about my story. I made a lot of poor choices as a teenager. I had to face a lot of consequences. I'm also going to share with you the transition that I made in making better choices. I dated my boyfriend, and we were young teens when I dated him. And the first time I had sex with him, the very first time, I got pregnant. It was so quick, bam. Next thing I knew, I was pregnant. Then from that point forward, you know, I just want to say that my entire world went into this downward spiral. I had to end up leaving school. I couldn't pursue my college. You get morning sickness, you get afternoon sickness, you get night sickness, you can't sleep. My stepfather didn't want me in the house. My mother was upset that I was pregnant, but you know, they tolerated me, so to speak. Then I ended up having to get social services, which was only $322 a month. Let's see, we're pulling up. This is a block that I lived in for about 15 years. Some of the houses are pretty dilapidated. Most of them were tore them down. I used to live down here a little bit more. Hey, what's up, Dexter? How you doing? How y'all doing? Hello? Huh? Just somebody. I used to live around here. We used to hang out in this building right here. We used to hang out all on the first floor, in the back of this building right here. But they tore that. It looked like they tore it down. I think it had a fire there. I would sit on this porch and we would play cards, you know, smoke cigarettes and drink 40 ounces and do all that stuff, depressed and with a little baby. So this is it. This is it. My dad didn't live here, of course, because he wasn't in the picture at the time. You know, I just grew up with my mom and my stepdad and my son. His dad was kind of in and out of his life, but it was hard. I mean, we struggled quite a bit. As a young person, I wasn't thinking about, I wasn't thinking about college. I wasn't thinking about work. I was thinking about taking care of my baby. How he's going to eat. How am I going to buy Pampers? What am I going to do? I'll see y'all later. I think all of my friends that I was with, all of them had several different babies as teenagers by several different other men, and there was no commitment. There was no child support, because what do you do when you date a man who doesn't have a job? He's a teenager. He's not working. Financially, he's not ready. And then my son's father wasn't there. He was out messing with other girls, getting other girls pregnant. We were living together and we weren't married. There was no commitment. He'd come over to my house anytime he feel like it. He'd leave anytime he feel like it. If he didn't feel like coming, he didn't come. It's just not a game. It's not fun. The most important thing in your life is the fact that you have to bring a new life in an uncommitted relationship with an uncommitted mindset, because you already are unstable. So your mind isn't even stable because you don't even know who you are, you know. So my mom, she had me when she was 14. By the time she was 18, she already had 3 babies by 3 different men. And I saw that. I grew up and saw that. I didn't know my dad until I turned 16. I don't want to play the blame game because, of course, I'm accountable for what I do. But I really do think that if he had been in my life, if he was married to my mom, if we lived in a very structured home, I think that I probably would have been raised a little bit differently. I think I probably would have made a lot of different choices. And I don't think I would have been in a relationship sexually with an abusive man who did not care about myself or my family. You know, my father would have made sure that whoever was in our life was a person who was respectful, honest, you know, and was going to be in it for the long haul and not in it just to take advantage of his daughter's body. I needed a role model. I needed someone that I could look at and say, I want to be like so-and-so, so-and-so, you know, they're married, they're, you know, gosh, this is great. And all I saw was grandma, lady across the street and her husband, and they were elderly. I didn't see young people my age that were happily married, that were in committed marriages and relationship with one another. You know, I didn't see that. All I saw was the hustle and bustle of a single family household where the stepfather came in and he was in and out of the person's life. Or I saw people dating each other in relationships, uncommitted relationships, having babies. You know, one month they're dating this person, they get pregnant by that person, they have the baby. A few months later, they're dating a totally different guy, then they're pregnant by that guy. You know, it was just an ongoing cycle of things that I saw. when I was in a relationship and I was single, and I mean, you know, and I wasn't married, and I was having intercourse and having sex with these individuals, I was looking for love in all the wrong places. I wanted them to give me something that they weren't even capable of giving me, because firstly, they didn't even possess it. You know, they had absolutely no desire to want to be in a committed relationship with me, and they had no desire to make love to me. They had no desire to love me. All they wanted to do was get some sex to feed that initial whatever it was that was going on in their bodies, and vice versa. We were lustful, we were in it, and then when they left me, I felt like so emptied out.
A new beginning.
Since I waited to be married and just experiencing what it feels like to wait, you're so focused. You're so focused on your goals. You're so focused. I did not date. I wouldn't put myself into those positions where I was with a guy at midnight in a place, and it was just us two alone, and the lights were dim, and you know, and soft music was playing, and you know, and of course we're attracted to one another, because I felt like it was a major distraction for a person like myself who was trying to hurdle over so many emotional things that I was going through at the time. And plus, I didn't want to become vulnerable, you know. I tell you, after being celibate, after that 1 year, you know, it's just like, man, I can really do this.
Right.
I can really, and I can feel good about it. I didn't have to walk into a room and in the back of my mind think that I was with someone last night, whether or not he was going to call me, whether or not I was ever going to see him again, or I didn't have to wake up the next day and I didn't have to feel like, oh, well, maybe I should go out and go get tested, you know, because I don't know, this guy could have had something. I wasn't thinking at the time. It was just sporadic sex, and it was just a one night stand, and oh God, you know, oh my God. So now I didn't have to, you know, wake up with any regret. It weeded out all of the bad guys, and it started causing all of the guys with integrity, all of the guys who were about substance, who had substance about themselves. Those were the ones who gravitated to me, because they knew I had a standard. They knew I had boundaries. I waited, and I got the real deal. Yeah. He makes love to me. I don't have sex. I make love. You know what I'm saying? So there's a big difference. I wake up, I don't have any regrets. I know my husband's coming home after work. I know he's not out sleeping around with the neighbor. You know, we love and respect, because he's my best friend. Everything that I did not have in an uncommitted and an unmarried sexual relationship is everything that I do have now. It's wonderful. It's safe. It's free love. It's free sex. It's free making whatever you want. It's free. You know, my husband tells me he loves me constantly, because I think we need that, and you can't get that having a sexual relationship with a person who's not your husband's wife. You can't get it. Sex is not what holds the marriage together. The sex is just the plus. It's the icing on the cake. I find myself like, if I'm gone away from my husband for an extended amount of time, you know, I'm just like, I can't wait to get home to be with my husband, you know, for us to share intimate time together, just laying in the bed with one another, and, you know, and cuddling, and, you know, oh, honey, I miss you, doing corny stuff, you know, but it's really not corny, you know, and then that building up to us becoming intimate, you know, because it's just like, wow, you know, I never thought it could be this great. I never thought. And then him loving me back, and him not getting up, leaving, you know, and I'm like, come back, you know, he's there with me the whole night, you know, we wake up together, our breath stink in the morning, and I still love him. I still love him. So, yeah, the icing on the cake.
Yeah, so then we do have discussion questions to discuss, you know, the video, which I'm not going to go through right now. But anyway, I think it's pretty effective, right?
It's wonderful. It's
Yeah.
timeless too.
Yeah.
Right.
So, okay. So then the next section, I'm really not going to go through this, but we do have a section where we talk about male and female differences. I think that's important, because in the marriage, you quickly realize, actually, we are really different, and in ways that people don't really understand. And they may think, I think it helps people have context for the differences that do exist. So we're talking about on average, okay? So the research that I share it'll say 75% of men are like this, 75% of women are like this on
It's not
average.
100.
That means that still 1 in 4 are not. Okay, but we're talking about
In general.
right? So, and I think it is helpful. So I'm not going to go through the
I
research
think it
now.
helps to show the differences doesn't mean good or bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because otherwise people may really struggle and say, wow, we're having all these disagreements, and it may be just because,
Perception.
you
How
know,
people view-
masculine and feminine way of looking at things can be quite different. Okay, and it's important to understand that. So I mean, I'll just give you an example. You know, women on average, girls speak at much earlier ages. They speak a lot more words on average than boys do. Okay, so they're more verbal. They're more able to communicate their feelings and so on. You know, so there are things to really be aware of. Women like face-to-face communication. Guys tend to like side-by-side communication.
Or do something while they're
Do
talking.
something while they're talking. It's less confronting to them. There are parenting differences, okay? The mother likes to protect the child. You see the father throwing the baby like 10 feet up in the air. Yeah. There are some differences in parenting styles on average, again, right? Yeah, and then there's this one woman named Lillian Glass who wrote a book called He Says, She Says. She identified 105 human gender differences, including body language, speech, voice patterns, speech content, behavior. So, so men tend to use conversation to assert their independence and status. You know, like guys will say, you know, I'm the man or you're the man, right? You know, humor, male humor is usually like they're dissing each other. You know, you look up a pile of crap today. What's wrong? You know, what happened? You know what I mean? They like to insult each other. It's like a way of humor, right?
Yeah.
So they're challenging each other's status, okay? And and then men tend to respond, whereas girls don't. The girls will say, "Oh, you look so pretty today." Guys don't say that to each other. There are some real differences, right? Okay, so men tend to respond to problems with concrete solutions. If he hears his wife saying, "Oh, we have this problem," the guy's thinking, "How can we fix that?"
Yeah, right.
Okay. Usually she just wants to vent, right? You know, she's not necessarily asking for the solution at this moment.
He wants to fix it.
Right. Yeah. So men are sensitive to issues, lack of trust and lack of respect. Okay. And that's good for their wives to understand. If the wife says something and he feels like she's saying, "I don't really respect you or trust you," that is very damaging.
That's like saying I don't love her.
Yeah. Whereas let's say a guy he's been fired from the job. And if the wife says, "You know what? I trust you. I trust you're going to solve this issue. You're going to get something better." He feels like $1 million
Right.
to have his wife say, "I trust you. I know that you'll be able to solve this issue." That is a huge boost for him. And that's a real way to show love, right? Rather than the opposite. You can imagine the opposite, you know, "You loser, you know, you always mess things up." You know what I mean? You know, it's interesting because men have more physical power, but women, the power of the words coming from the woman are very powerful. You can destroy a man with your words. You know, I don't know if women realize this. So women use words to make connection, to show feeling. You know, they're often more than willing to confess, you know, their weaknesses to their girlfriends and just have a lot of, you know, talk about a lot of things. Men don't talk as much on average, right? Respond to problems with empathy. They want to see consensus. you know, the man is more willing to stand on what he believes is like principle. The female tendency on average is to seek consensus, right? And women are sensitive to a lack of love, right? So men could be a little bit harsh sometimes in just stating what they think. And women may feel like, wow, he's expressing this so strongly and so emphatically, they may feel like a lack of love. You know, so men have to be careful too. Sometimes when I was growing up, you know, my father and my two uncles, they were arguing all the time, you know, and, you know, some people might have thought, oh, they're arguing with each other. No, they're just having a good time, just debating, you know, but for a woman, it sounded, you know, it sounded right. So then we have an activity in the RQ workbook where we have questions where they share. Let me just read the questions. Hold on, because I just want you to know what the, yes, yeah, so the, yeah, so this is, I think, activity number, is it 8? Oh, wait, 10. I'm sorry, activity number 10 in the workbook, which we don't always get to. Okay, yeah, okay, so this is page 10. So yeah, so here are the questions. So number 1, male and female differences can be enjoyed, but they can also lead to miscommunication, even resentment if not treated in a good way. What are some areas that you've noticed where guys and girls can misunderstand and hurt each other? Okay, so usually we have them write down their own thoughts first, and then we would ask them to share in the classroom. You know, if people want to share what they've noticed. Number 2, learning to appreciate positive qualities of others is an important skill to develop in life. Write down 5 non-physical qualities of the opposite sex that you admire, with examples from your own family or others. So, you know, people might say, well, my father's not really a very good communicator, but he works hard to support our family, right? You know, that one example. Or my mother, she really listens to me when I have a problem. I can really talk to her. You know, things, you know, all kinds of things, right? Okay. Number 3, what are some things that you wish the opposite sex understood about your own gender? Number 4, what are some strong points of your own gender? What are some areas you think could be improved? Okay, because men and women, we each have things that we need to be careful about. I would say for guys, in general, they have to control their desire for sex and aggression, right? Those are the 2 areas that we have to be careful about, because some guys sometimes we're quick to get into an argument or a fight, or to act on our sexual desire, right? And then girls, let me see, girls, let me think, what would be something? Anyway, you could, I mean, sometimes you could say girls, they tend to be sometimes very concerned what other people are saying about them. They're very sensitive to their peer culture, right? Yeah. Especially other girls. And they may get involved with things that they really do not believe in, right? So, and maybe the tendency maybe to worry a lot about things, right? Yeah. Right. So anyway, there are different things, and you can talk about it, and it's not, I think it's helpful for people to kind of at least start thinking about it. Again, not that everyone is like this. There are women who are, you know, not the norm, and guys. Okay. Number 5, if there was one thing that you could say to members of the opposite sex about male-female relationships, what would that be? So that is kind of giving a chance for some people may have a lot of resentment toward the opposite sex. So I think in a way it's good to give like an outlet for people to maybe express. You know, I think a lot of guys are bastards, right? You know, they're self-centered, you know, whatever, right? Or guys might have resentment towards girls. And I think it's helpful to realize, because the truth is that men and women need each other, but also men and women hurt each other a lot, right? So that's why this is meant to kind of have those discussions, okay? All right. Okay, and then I share a little bit from Gary Chapman, who wrote a book called The 5 Love Languages. So he says, love does not demand, but it can request. No one likes to be forced to do anything. In fact, love is always freely given. Love cannot be demanded. We can request things of each other, but we must never demand anything. Requests give direction to love. Demands stop the flow of love. So if someone kind of threatens you and they're threatening you to do something, what is your natural reaction? Just say, no, hell no, I'm not going to do that. You're trying to force me, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas if you say, look, it would make me really happy if you would do this, then most people say, well, okay, maybe I'll try to do that, right? So we're very sensitive to that, the tone of force, being forced to do something. And then there's issue of people receive love in different ways. So some people, they like to hear words of affirmation. They like, you know, praise, you know, I'm really proud of you. You know, I really appreciate what you do for our family. You know, people like, some people, those words are very important, right? Other people, they feel love through touch. They want to be hugged. They want to have that touch. Other people, they like receiving gifts and giving gifts. So that's very meaningful for them. Other people, he found, they show love by serving, right? By serving, by taking care of the house, right? And keeping it clean and orderly, or different things, or, you know, changing the oil in the car or whatever. And other people like to spend quality time and doing activities together, right? Going on hikes together, doing things, right? So the problem is that some people, their spouse or partner, they may be doing things to show love, but it's not in the language that their spouse really understands love. And obviously, you know, 2 or 3 of these things may be important. I'm not just saying only one, but anyway, he has a book about this, and I think it's good to raise.
The test people can take online too.
Yeah, raise the issue. Okay, and then there's another counselor named Emerson Egerich, who wrote a book called Love and Respect. And in his book, he argues that the fundamental need of women is to be loved, and the fundamental need of men is to be respected. So it doesn't mean that men don't need love and that women do not need respect, but he said the fundamental need. And he actually asked men, which would you choose? To be with somebody who loved you but didn't respect you, or to be alone? And yeah, and the men, most of the men said, I would rather be alone than be with someone who is not respecting me as a man, right? And kind of saying, implying that I'm not capable, I'm not trustworthy. So this is a very big issue for men.
Huge.
Whereas for women, it was really, it was different. The women said, I would rather be alone or than be with someone who really doesn't love me. It was a different major need that they had. So yeah, women are more concerned to share emotions. Men focus on status and responsibility. So look, we have different strong points, and that's on average, okay? And then he talks about the crazy cycle where, see, driven by her lack of feeling loved and his lack of feeling respected. So this is like a hellish cycle. Okay, unfortunately, a wife's usual approach is to complain and criticize in order to motivate her husband to become more loving. This usually proves about as successful as trying to sell brass knuckles to Mother Teresa. The husband decides that he will motivate his wife to become more respectful by acting in unloving ways. This usually proves about as successful trying to sell a pickup to an Amish farmer. Okay. So, and then he said, personally, I began to write down each time my wife said something that cut to the core of my being. I was amazed at how I felt my honor being attacked on a daily basis. I don't want to judge my wife, but respect is certainly the issue. The male withdraw and be quiet response is very real. Okay. And then he talks about the rewarded cycle. His love motivates her respect motivates his love. Okay. You can experience disappointment, but it is your choice to disrespect or to be unloving. Men, can you love your wife even when she's not acting lovable and you feel disrespected? Women, can you respect your husband even when he is unloving and not acting respectable? So, in other words, he argues that if you're in a bad relationship or a bad marriage, if one of you changes what you do, it can really change the relationship, even one person. So often we're waiting for the other person to change first, right? But he said, and I heard this story, I don't know if it's really a true story or a parable, but I remember reading about this. I think it was a woman. She wanted to get a divorce because she just felt her husband doesn't really love her or care about her. So she went and saw, I don't know, it was a counselor or someone she really respected. And so this person said, look, I'm going to teach you how to do something that will really make your husband suffer. Okay. And so this is what I want you to do. I want you to really like serve your husband and express respect and appreciation for your husband for 1 month. Okay. So make him really love you because you're really, make him, really miss you and want to be with you. And then after he's totally in love with you, then you divorce him and dump him.
Right. Oh no.
So like a year later, they ran into each other again. So this person said, well, how did your divorce go?
That's funny.
So
wonderful.
So we have a great marriage. What are you talking about? Anyway, I'm not sure if it's a true story or not, but it's
That's
There's a
funny.
movie,
Yeah.
I think it's called Fire Food.
Really?
And it like
Right.
the marriage was becoming like very, very extreme.
right.
And there was this, she made a list or whatever, and every day she wrote down how she started treating her husband. And they started slowly
Right.
coming back together. So
Right.
it's like basically like Fire Food being married.
Wow.
Right.
Like those love languages and yeah.
Right.
I can't remember his name. Now.
Yeah.
Jason's.
Yeah, that was a good movie. Yeah.
Oh, so you know what movie?
Yeah, oh,
I'm talking
yeah.
about? Yes,
Yeah, I like
yes.
that was a great movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they reminded me of. when
Yeah.
you said that.
Yeah.
Was he a fireman?
So
Yes.
okay, so that's the end of part 4. So
That was really good.
yeah,
The slides,
right.
I love the research.
Yeah.
And even if somebody says, but Miss Linda, that's 1994. I says, no problem. Your homework is find me a new one that is more
Yeah.
current, and they're happy with 1994. So
Yeah, I did look. So I kept the 1994 research, but it does have the 2010, research.
Yeah.
It's on the slide.
It's relevant because look, we still talk about Newton and his apple, you know?
Right,
So
yeah.
it's,
Yeah,
the point is what it said and it's,
yeah,
and that's, relationships were in trouble too then, but not as bad.
yeah, right.
No, I
yeah.
loved it. I
Yeah.
loved it.
So anyway, hopefully we'll get to share this more. Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording.
So
Okay.
is that for high school?
Yeah, yeah, I would say so. Yeah. Mhm.